On Tuesday, the 16th of January, I found the front page of the Nation newspaper quite fascinating. Two headlines caught my eye. The big story said, and I quote, Tinubu, prosperity soon after subsidy removal pains. And if you look at the top corner of the top right corner of the paper, there's another small header that reads, and I quote, NBS puts inflation rate at 28.92%. These two headlines on the front page, though completely different, yet they tell a similar story. One of despair, and I would have loved to say that the other told the story of hope. But if I did, many would ask me which hope. So it's safe to say that both headlines told the story of despair. Yesterday, I had a conversation with someone who spoke about buying flights from Lagos to London for 95,000 naira, and I laughed. It felt like a dream that must have taken place centuries ago, only that it wasn't. At the time when Wizkid sang the lines, Lagos today and London tomorrow, and we sang with such exuberance, none of us would have dreamt that the day will come when a ticket from Lagos to London will cost millions. And no, I'm not talking business class. This is economy. This is our economy. But that sounds very elitist. Let's talk about something more general, because flights, of course, not everybody is taking flights. I'm not even going to go into the conversation of how much it costs to take road transportation without the fear of kidnappers. That's if it's possible. Let's talk about food, because food is life. The food inflation rate, which accounts for the bulk of Nigeria's inflation basket, rose 33.93% in December from 32.84% a month earlier. This is the highest inflation rate that Nigeria has experienced in more than 27 years, I beg your pardon. Now let's put this in context. The last time that it probably was this bad was before the oldest set of Gen Zs were born. It has affected everything, from the cost of rice to the cost of oil, onions, vegetables. Tell me, how can a kilo of turkey cost 4,000 naira and above, depending on where you're buying it from? Make it make sense. Now, I'll give some practical examples of some ways in which inflation has impacted my spending. As at this time last year, that's of course January 2023, I used to fill my tank with about 10,000 to 12,000 naira, depending on how empty it was. Now, 1 year after, tell me why I spend 40,000 naira to fill my tank, and no, I don't drive an SUV. I had a keg that always filled with, 6,000 naira worth of fuel, but now it swallows 20,000 naira worth of fuel. How? I recently bought 350 grams of a chocolate beverage, 350 grams of milk, 1 toilet cleaner, and 2 loaves of bread. And my heart skipped when they brought the bill and I saw 10,000 naira. Another scary part is the cost of deodorants and antiperspirants. Now, this time last year, they sold for 1,000 naira. And as at yesterday, they were going for 4,000 naira. How can we ask the average man who can barely afford meals with this current reality to use deodorants? Where would he find the money? Wouldn't we be considered heartless and somewhat insensitive to make that ask? The dry season is coming. The weather will get hotter. And seeing as the price of deodorant doesn't look like it's coming down, my advice is that we brace up. And then there's the price of pads and tampons and other sanitary towels. It's bad enough that women have to go through the discomfort and sometimes the pains that periods come with. Now, there's also the financial burden it brings. Period poverty doesn't get the attention that it needs. Sanitary pads, which are the most common period products in Nigeria, have been subjected to ridiculously inflated prices over the years, especially the imported sanitary pads. Tampons aren't any better, as I recently wanted to buy a foreign brand from a supermarket. Upon hearing that it costs 15,000 naira, I walked away without buying it. I walked away angry. In 2021, ex-Minister of Women Affairs, Dame Pauline Talent, said over 37 million Nigerian women of menstruating age do not have access to sanitary pads due to financial constraints. We can only imagine what the numbers are saying in 2023. Do you know that in low-income communities, reports have it that young girls use rags, paper, cloth strips, foam, and even grass on their periods? By so doing, endangering their sexual and reproductive health, endangering their bodies, and running the risk of contracting urinary tract infections. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you know what's worse? The predictions. David Omojomolo, who is an African economist at Capital Economics, said that inflationary pressures are only likely to build from here, citing second-round effects from the removal of fuel subsidy last year and, of course, Naira weakness. He predicted that inflation would breach 30% by the end of the first quarter and said it was unlikely to peak until the middle of 2024. Middle of 2024? We're only just in January. How much more can people bear for the next 5 months? They say when you get to the bottom, the only way is up. But it's not been looking up lately. It feels like we're digging down. And if we dig down some more, we maybe just might find oil at this rate. But I don't know if we would know what we need to do with that. I would love to explain and explain. But a visit to your nearest market or supermarket and a quick analysis of your statement of account will show you the evidence. So, back to the headline of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that says, prosperity soon after subsidy removal pains. My response to that is, when? Can you define soon? How soon is soon? When will the poor actually breathe? I don't know if I will get any answer. But these are my questions this morning. I rest my case.